Hello, the wait is finally over, and after 1 week off, we are back on the tune-up for episode 5. Hi, folks. As always, my name is Zach Tefelsky. Zachary MT is my YouTube channel, and I'm joined by the same panelist that you've seen every single show. We've got Cody slotted above me today. That's Cody Sill. Derek Smith is to his left, and Marcus Vanderlee sitting bottom left on the voice call today. We've got a great show for you in store for today, and real quick, I apologize for the lack of communication as to no show last week. The two people that you see on the right of your screen, myself and Cody Sill, both attended Atlanta together and made a weekend out of it. And due to the subsequent kind of spillover into the week starting on Monday, we decided we will call off Monday's show due to travel and stuff like that. So we are back and we're going to make up for it by talking about Atlanta. We're going to talk about the IndyCar season opener, and then we're going to get into what's happened this recent weekend in NASCAR. Of course, we had IndyCar on Fox. Right after that coverage, opened the Circuit of the Americas race, the third race of the NASCAR regular season. That's our primary segment today, but we're not starting with it because we have to make up for our episode that we missed last week, guys. What a race it was at Atlanta Motor Speedway. By the way, those of you joining us, say hi in the chat. We see RN already said hello before the show even started, and we want to hear your thoughts as we continue on with this discussion today. We're happy to be back, and we witnessed one heck of a race reminiscent of 2024's Atlanta February race, and it had just about everything except the green flag finish. 3 wide to the checkered flag. They were 3 wide, just wasn't green. But we're not going to start there. How about we start with just the racing product overall and thoughts? How about we start with one that attended the race, Cody Sill?
Yeah, with circumstances that everything happened there, I was lucky to make a trip down here to the Peach State here and enjoy a weekend here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Thanks to Zach and my friend Seth, for everything, and hospitality wise, and so really cool new experience for me. Really enjoyed the racing. I saw what all the hype was about. I enjoyed the
Mm,
watching the racing on TV, but being there in person. But yeah, just the overall weekend here was really good. Once again, a lackluster Xfinity race. I felt like
yep.
the second half really brought a lot more life into the race. But I mean, Austin Hill. I don't know what else to say about him. He's just something else. He knows how to get around these super speedways so well. The truck race here were really good truck race from start to finish. Enjoyed watching that, which was better from the product from last year. And then of course, the main event, the Cup race. Cup race here actually started off kind of quiet. They actually minded their P's and Q's in the first stage. I felt like more than they had in the past. Second stage though, that all went out the window. Lot of uh, lot of battling, a lot of wild moves, a lot of wrecking, a lot of drivers all over the place, and then obviously here the final stage here. That's where everything took off, and yeah, that finish here, controversial or not, I didn't let it ruin the race. The racing product was really good. It came down there to the end. It came down to the wire. Everything about that race was really fun to watch here, and being there in person is just something else. So can't wait to go back. And yeah,
Curious, not sure if anyone in the chat has been to Atlanta Motor Speedway before. By the way, said hello to RN and hello to another frequent viewer in King, and as well as Mr. Vanderlee joining us in the chat today. We're grateful for your presence. And Cody, I want to ask you a follow up real quick before I send it around to the left side of the screen here and talk to Derek and Marcus. First time in Atlanta, and I had the pleasure to show you around the facility. I myself have been going for well over 10 years to Atlanta Motor Speedway NASCAR races. What stood out to you most just taking in the sights of Atlanta Motor Speedway and the facility itself, real quick?
it's a really nice facility. I really enjoyed here. It was my ninth different track I think I've gone to in my life. Ninth Cup Series track that is.
And it was a
Um,
spontaneous decision on your part, wasn't
yeah.
it?
The spontaneous of it. I mean, I was driving down and I hit Nashville, and it still didn't even hit me that I was going to a race. I mean it was just everything happened in a matter of just a few days that I can't even explain it. So it was really cool that that happened. But no, the whole facility, I really enjoy the facility. The coming in from the track here, it's just got that NASCAR feel to it here. You look at the track here, the big pillars, um, that have like I guess it was like the grandstands on the outside of the track. Really, it's a really nice looking facility, really well taken care of. Obviously the people at Atlanta Motor Speedway here know what they're doing. They've got lightning in a bottle with this product, and the fans obviously are showed out. And yeah, so I really enjoyed it. Definitely will be going back. My dad used to go there for championship races back in the '90s. Totally different track, but nevertheless, it was a really fun experience. And glad I got to enjoy it. And yeah.
Yeah, it's always cool, I feel like, hearing people from the first time going to a track. So glad you gave some insight there. And I want to flip it now to other two panelists. And I guess where do we start with this one? Because we had a lot to talk about at Atlanta Motor Speedway. I mean, watching it for me, I was down there in turn number one towards the end of the grandstands. Action every lap. I actually want to start with you, Marcus Vanderlee. Do you think that that race this year, with trying to avoid any recency bias, do you think that race could have even been better than 2024's Atlanta race had the finish gone green?
I mean, well, like Kanye said, I guess we'll never know, but yeah, it's really down to NASCAR's decision making there and what we saw on Saturday. I mean, they did say in the drivers meeting on Sunday, I believe it was, that the meeting that the end of the race should have been a caution for Xfinity. So at least they stuck to their word for Cup. But from a officiating standpoint, they stuck to their word. But from a fan perspective, it kind of just sucked to see how knowing what we could have had. But I don't know if that would have be how cool the 2023 or 2024 finish was.
I mean, it's hard to tell, and you have to avoid that recency bias too. I keep trying to tell myself that because I can't remember lap by lap the experience of being at the 2024 race. Even though I was there, I have videos from it. Certainly remember the finish, but 2025 is more recently in my mind. And with that, Derek, you're the last one we haven't heard from yet. And it's interesting. It's a unique situation. We're trying to look back a week prior before we get into this weekend's recent happenings and at that second race of the season. Right after the chaos of Daytona, we come to Atlanta. And the question I want to open up to you is that we have a track here that some fans have started to come around on and say, this, with the next gen car, is the best super speedway product in NASCAR. Do you have any thoughts on that, Derek?
Well, I personally think that I'll just say this. Whenever Atlanta repaved, I was a complete hater of it. But as time went on, I started to slowly grow into it because, you know, transferring an intermediate track to a super speedway, I was kind of like surprised by that. But I've been slowly liking the racing product though in Atlanta, and I think that overall it's just getting better and better every year, and it provides a lot of excitement, similar to Daytona. There's a lot more of a tire wear factor for sure, but I think that also spices things up more.
And let me actually just open this up. Anyone chime in, fight over each other's right to talk if you want to. I'm opening this up to the chat as well if anyone wants to give thoughts. Do you think Atlanta, the track, specifically talking about next gen, kind of try not to think about trucks or Xfinity, how do you think the racing will change as the track ages? I saw Dale Jr. say it's only going to get better as the track ages, and it's too early to know if NASCAR will continue to put out the super speedway package or if they'll just put on the intermediate package again. That's yet to be determined, but I think what we have right here is a super speedway style that's really the most reminiscent of that 90s pre-pack racing type of super speedway when you look at some of the old super speedways back in the day when they were fighting for handling as much as they were fighting for positioning. And I feel like that's really reminiscent of what we have here at Atlanta. That's why Dale Jr., I mean, he's like a unpaid promoter for the track. He's been all over the racing product ever since it's been heating up. But I'm curious, anyone chime in? How would you grade the super speedway future at Atlanta?
I
I
think.
Go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
Marcus.
Yeah, I knew that would
Oh,
happen.
okay. Well, okay. Well, I was gonna say if they're gonna continue racing in Atlanta how it is, it's better at night than it is in the day because naturally the hotter it gets, the slicker it gets. Meanwhile, at night you'll have that for a super speedway for what's expected. Nighttime will produce the better super speedway product that everyone kind of expects that they're gonna see when they watch that kind of race. So I think just moving forward, start later in the day like they did with this one, and then let it end at night. Like we don't need races ending in the day because then you just don't get any passes or cool finishes, as we've seen with both the races Logano's won as an example.
Yeah. Going back to that Dale Jr. comment, Zach. He said that it's only going to get better as the track ages. Can you give me like an example when the track aged and it got better? Like I'm just trying to struggle in my mind right
Well,
now.
I mean, you can think of how tracks gain character, perhaps, and Dale Jr., this is just his words on it. It's hard to really predict. What we do have is a very fast aging Atlanta Motor Speedway. This track was repaid in 2022, and year to year, this thing keeps getting more gray and more rougher. Maybe thinking from Dale Jr.'s perspective, this track will just become more and more of a driver's track. One thing that we've
Yeah.
heard drivers such as Kyle Busch kind of hint at is that this is the type of super speedway racing that NASCAR should be about, one that favors driver skill more than driver luck. That's why Kyle Busch was able to kind of handle his race when he won the trucks on Saturday at Atlanta. He really looked like a different driver out there, and it kind of fell back on that experience.
No, I agree with the character part for sure, but I'm just thinking more in terms of like when the drivers mess up more, let's say like 5, 10 years in the future when it's way aged. I'm just thinking like, oh, what if more tire blowouts happen, and what
Yeah.
if it gets so bad to the point the tire compound can't handle it? So
Yeah.
that's my point of view on it.
Well, I mean, that's a good year issue, too. I mean, we've heard constant issues with the low profile tire. I think we still had an incident directly related to that, maybe a couple actually. I know Eric Jones spun unrelated to a tire off of turn 2 during the race, but couldn't get back going because the tires blew out. And
Yeah.
those low profile tires don't get back
I
going
believe
as good.
Chase Elliott, his incident, which also caused Keselowski to be out of the race, that was due to a blown tire, was it not?
Uh, well, Elliott got put up into the wall.
I think something either got broke or he blew a tire from it.
I think
'Cause
his rear toe link up broke.
the way he was driving, like it was either a toe link or a tire.
Yeah,
And
but
then I also saw that meme that Chase Elliott posted where it's like the guy crashing his car and he put the crash video over it. Have you guys seen that?
Didn't Elliott get back on the lead lap too from
Yep.
that?
At the end of the
Really?
race, yes.
Dang.
McDowell,
Well,
we got. Speaking of that, go ahead, Cody. I'll.
I was just
get
about to
one.
say that. Yeah, McDowell 6 times free pass. He had an incident early in the race. 6 times got the free pass, and still came away on the lead lap in the finish of that on a 13th place finish. So that was quite something.
And I believe he tied Jamie McMurray's record. I forgot what race McMurray got it at, but McMurray previously had it as far back as when it was still the Lucky Dog.
Well,
Yes, I do believe so. Yeah.
we don't want to spend all show talking about Atlanta, and I was going to bring up a discussion, but we did kind of address this after watching the Daytona duels about the controversy surrounding time of yell on the last lap. Certainly a video to go reference back at, but as we wrap up our Atlanta discussion here, I want to touch on some notable chats here. King chiming in, and he said he thinks Atlanta might become similar to the 80s and 90s type super speed racing. I mean, that's what I was trying to get, and I think that's what Dale Jr. sees too. He's someone that was absolutely around that type of style of racing. Very good point by King. RN said NASCAR needs to start making a reputation for being consistent, damn it. And he's obviously fed up with the situation right now. I mean, no matter the case, NASCAR needs to start getting consistent at whatever they decide. And I think that's a notable
Yeah.
takeaway as well. RN also said the Atlanta summer being back at night. I think this kind of went off of what Marcus pointed at. Is going to be better for the product because summer heat will make it just a not fun handling day for those race cars. And lastly, we got NASCAR Lover in the chat. Big Chase Elliott fan. He says Chase Elliott is goated. Pepsi is also so good. Not sure where that came from. Is someone drinking Pepsi?
Oh yes,
I-
yes,
Okay.
yes, right here,
Yeah,
right there.
right.
Yep.
That's must have been.
We're not sponsored, by the way, guys. So don't.
I always make it a point. I somehow drink Mellow Yellow on every stream. Best soda that Coke's ever made.
Yeah.
Hey, how about that new orange Coke? Anyone got their hands on that yet?
Oh.
Is it like what?
Yeah.
Like the orange, not the orange vanilla, right?
It's technically different. It's orange cream, I think, is what it's called.
Huh. I've got to try it.
Like a new rendition of Coke's take on orange flavor. They were handing out samples me and Cody got at Atlanta Motor Speedway in the Midway, but I've also already got my hands on a 12-pack of it. I like it, so
Yeah. When I went to Phoenix last November, the Coke booth was handing out. It was the cherry lime sprites they were handing out, and those are surprisingly very good, very refreshing.
are those still in the
While I was
market?
waiting, I believe so. They're still in the stores, I think. I've seen them at Fry's or Kroger. That's our Kroger store.
Well, I'll have to keep an eye out for it. Let's switch gears, putting Atlanta now officially in the rearview mirror, making up for our missed show last week. And before we talk about COTA, we have to talk about the race that led into COTA on the Fox channel. And we have now kicked off the second of one of our primary series that we like to follow here on the channel. And IndyCar open up their 2025 campaign with a brand new TV partnership at the track that's been the season opener for quite a while now, St. Petersburg. And once again, to me, this one I want to start with, guys, and I'm going to start sending it around the table here. I'm going to start just letting people chime in, especially those in the chat. It feels like it's just every year St. Pete finds a way to have a stack up on the opening lap, particularly in those opening S's, and it takes out drivers. And it usually seems like it's about around mid pack. And then going on with that deja vu, I mean, the race then basically goes green the entire rest of the way, which it did on Sunday. But I know I'm happy just to see the IndyCar season back in full swing here. And most notably, they got a new TV partnership. Alex Palou took home the victory. And anyone had any overlying thoughts on the race? I'm curious to hear, as well as the chat.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry, Zach, that your driver wrecked out in I think turn 2 or 3, along with Nolan Siegel. Nolan Siegel, like I've only watched his Indy 500 attempt. I mean, has he done any more IndyCar races besides that?
Well, he's getting a lot more experience now. He's got a
Yeah.
bright future.
Was Siegel
Yeah.
the one that was he the one that wrecked out in qualifying last year while trying to push it?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like twice too in the same weekend. But
Wow.
but in terms of the St. Petersburg race, I really appreciated what it was worth. Not the biggest IndyCar follower, I think, compared to Zach or Cody or even Marcus. But I mean, I was just watching it on my TV on a Saturday, and I was just thinking like, wow, this is going green pretty much all the way to the end. I was like, I saw, and especially Palou, I saw him go from like P15, and then he just kept climbing up and up and up. He never went down at all at any point during the race, and
Well,
he did win.
I think the best thing about IndyCar is there's never no shortage of parity for an open wheel circuit style racing series. Obviously, it's got the most diverse schedule, arguably, with the fair mix of circuits and ovals. And I just love that you never really know who's going to win till the end. And for me, IndyCar is my go-to for open wheel racing. F1's closely behind it. I just love watching those drivers go at it with those high horsepower machines and new hybrid outputs on them as well. Ultimately, it wasn't the most eventful St. Pete race. It was eventful at the beginning, but you had your mix-ups throughout the field. Scott McLaughlin was in control of that race early, and then Alex Palou played the long game, made it work towards the end, and Scott McLaughlin actually ended up falling a little bit back. Newgarden, I believe, was the highest finishing Penske car.
I also want to mention that Lundgaard was also up in the lead for a while. I thought he was a previous F2 Academy driver, so I thought that was cool seeing him up there.
Marcus, have you always enjoyed St. Petersburg as a racetrack?
So usually at the point I start watching IndyCar in the season is like maybe just before the Indy 500. I didn't watch the race yesterday. My big takeaway from IndyCar this weekend though was why do they have better graphics than
Yep.
NASCAR's had since like 2020? You know,
Yeah.
why are their cameras like actually colorful like
That
NBC's are?
broadcast just looked vibrant. I don't know what it
Dude,
was.
Like the Fox broadcast, it just looks so bland, so lifeless. Like I don't know if you guys, I'm gonna cite
Yeah.
an LE Productions video here where you put like a Fox comparison to an NBC comparison of Phoenix Raceway, and NBC, it's just like so much more colorful than Fox has ever been recently. Like in the early 2000s, Fox was super vibrant. You know, everyone loved it. What went wrong for them? You know, like I think they just don't care about NASCAR anymore, is what it seems. I think that's how a lot of fans feel right now.
I think it goes hand in hand with the fact that Fox had to sell themselves to IndyCar. IndyCar had to agree to sign that contract, and now Fox is putting all of the effort into getting the IndyCar season started off right. They even sent Jamie Little, Bob
Yeah.
Pockrass, notable NASCAR reporters over to cover IndyCar, and I thought the broadcast was mostly a success. I can't think of too many negatives with it. Pretty good mix of commercials with side by side action as well
So
with split box.
Was Bob on the? Was he actually on the broadcast, or was he just covering
It,
for like Twitter?
he was just doing his normal reporting for Twitter type deal
Okay.
It's cool.
for Fox, and that probably came hand in hand with the TV deal. Cody, I know you always get excited when IndyCar comes around. It just adds yet another thing to the calendar for an eager race fan. And how do you grade the start of the season? Once again, Alex Palou winning it. Do you think he's yet in for yet another championship?
You know, it was a shocking stat to me, and I haven't. I guess I just. I mean, I'm not the biggest follower of IndyCar here, but I do enjoy watching the races. But that was only his 12th career win. He's a three-time champion, and that was only his 12th career win. I understand there
Wow.
that IndyCar doesn't do as many races here as say NASCAR does in a season, but still, that means per championship he's only winning 4 races a season.
Well,
So
Hello is 27 years old with 3 championships. That's crazy.
yeah, that too. So I mean, he could be on a legendary run here if he continues the way he is. I think the top 3 finishers are going to be your top 3 going for the championship. I think St. Pete is one of those tracks that always finds the drivers that race up front at St. Pete are the guys here that are championship contenders.
Okay.
Now that's why you see drivers like Palou, like Dixon, like Newgarden up front. I think that was I thought it was a pretty good race. The strategy really played in well. Dixon
Yep.
was really uh, getting going there at the end. Got past Newgarden there on the final lap, but he just obviously didn't have enough for Palou, who had that 2-second lead. But Palou really he put on a good show. No surprise there. Chip Ganassi here really firing all cylinders in IndyCar, and I think it's going to be a long season if the drivers can't keep Palou out of the winner's circle.
Well, you mentioned long season. I'm not acting like this is something that's brand new with how the schedule's formatted this year, but I think there's only about 4 races until May for the IndyCar series. And like I said, I'm not acting like that's brand new. That's usually how the schedule's been spaced out to start the year, and then it really amps up once you get to the month of May for Indianapolis month. So it'll be interesting to see how Fox continues to manage sending their NASCAR talent over to IndyCar, the likes of Jamie Little and Bob Pockrass, because maybe they're saying, well, since IndyCar only has a couple of dates during our NASCAR Cup broadcasting schedule, for those few dates, we're going to send over Jamie Little, Bob Pockrass. But focusing still on the Fox broadcast aspect of it, I'm actually going to look over to the chat because I know we've had some thoughts chimed in about it. King overall, he said that the IndyCar race was good. He enjoyed the strategy racing. I mean, I think that's the overall consensus. That's what you get out of a good green flag run to the end. You get strategy, and I thought that Fox covered it well. I enjoy watching those cars
Oh
go
yeah.
down pit road and the reporters. They had Jack Harvey on the reporting pit crew, former IndyCar driver, and
It was almost like identical to NBC in my opinion,
mhm.
compared to last year.
Yeah, and we'll have to see what types of different ways they'll get creative going forward. King also said that race is a little bittersweet because he's also a Will Power fan, and
Oh.
so yeah, I mean that brand new scheme for Will Power, reminiscent of kind of those old Chip Ganassi Target cars from a certain angle with the red mixed with yellow striping. I hate to see that thing wrecked. I want to get
Is he
more
in a
good looks of that.
Pennzoil car
He,
now, or is it
still,
still Verizon?
yeah, still Verizon, just a new look on it, a brand new look, one that's never been seen before.
How long has he had Verizon? Now that I think about it, because that's like one of the longest driver sponsor combos I can think of right now.
And during his entire tenure with Penske, he's been there. Even sponsored
Hmm.
the series for a while. But
Yeah.
we'll see how consistent Verizon stays with Penske. Uh, King, but one thing I wanted to get to, King, since we're on the topic of broadcast, King brought up a good point. He said the broadcast actually was horrible. That's his opinion during qualifying. He said the broadcast was horrible. He felt like the NBC broadcast was better for IndyCar coverage, but he knows they'll continue to improve. So I mean, everyone's going to have eyes on the Fox and how they kind of cover IndyCar all season long. That was just one race, and they seem to take it seriously. That's really the main thing from it. Although I didn't watch the pre-race. I heard that they had some borderline cringy or cheesy, just kind of approach to pre-race. That's not my words. I didn't watch it. I can't speak for it. But we'll have to see. One thing I want to add on here, though, I'm curious what everyone else thinks about the in-booth talent for Fox. Do you like it? I know I was a bit skeptical about Will Buxton coming over, but boy, I really come to like him after one race. I love that voice for open wheel racing. I think that's a good voice. And they brought over the same NBC analyst in James Hinchcliffe and Townsend Bell, former IndyCar drivers in their own respects as well. Anyone else like the booth talent?
I think it helps with Will a lot when he doesn't have to try and, I don't know how to say it, like when he has to try to dumb down the racing product for the fans, like how he was on Drive to Survive. He was
Yeah.
memed to all hell. Like now that he could actually just go and talk about it as it goes on, it actually sounded a lot better from him, which I think was very good.
Yeah, that's why I was skeptical too. But Will Buxton certainly seemed in his element covering that race.
Yeah, and he was like one of the main reporters for F1. I think
Yeah.
we've always known him for that. And coming over to IndyCar, he definitely did pretty well.
He did his homework. That's what I could tell as a
Yeah.
real life broadcaster myself, knowing the prep that goes into it. He seemed to know his stuff, and hopefully that keeps up. We'll see how they cover Thermo Club. That's a race I actually missed last season watching IndyCar, so apparently Thermal Club wasn't too much to write home about, and it certainly has mixed opinions of the fans of IndyCar. But that is what's on deck, so we'll have to see how that goes.
It feels like a rich people type of race, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I don't really get the appeal. Well, it's a beautiful facility, beautiful area, more so.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's like the track itself doesn't have any grandstands as far as I've seen. I don't know how like people that attend it, like where they hang out at. But then
The
again, like I
country
said,
club inside,
yeah,
probably.
I did not watch the Thermal Club last year. I'm hoping I can watch it this year.
So that's supposed to be the IndyCar All Star, right? Sorry to cut you off.
That's what it was last year. I assume it is again this year. Uh,
The
I should
second
know.
race is the All Star race, though. It must be a regular season
Well,
race, right?
it's a different take on things, and I wish I had the specifics on it. I'm sure we have someone in the chat, maybe King, that could bail
King
us
knows
out
a
on.
lot about IndyCar, I think.
And he also lets you know that Verizon's been sponsoring Will Power since 2009. That's the year. Hello to Mark in the chat. He's joined along here. Mark, always good to see you. He's been adding in some thoughts, and yeah, he chimed in on the Verizon conversation as well. But it has been a while. With that, though, I think that's going to wrap up our IndyCar conversation, and why don't we head over Circuit of the Americas, the big event from this past weekend, the one that came after IndyCar on the same channel. And surprisingly, for the first time, the third race, the earliest COTA has ever been on its short NASCAR partnership in the Cup schedule. And we're going to have to see what's in store going forward for that spot on the schedule. But Circuit of the Americas was with a brand new layout delivered, and it certainly delivered a great race. People have had skeptical opinions about Circuit of the Americas on the schedule. I know I myself have been a bit torn. I feel like it's always had a spot, but I love the new layout. Making the track shorter, I feel like that was just a no-brainer now that they've done it. And I not only that it's shorter, I like the kind of short shoot that it's given now. I feel like that's a fun part of the racetrack. But
Yeah.
how about we open it up here into the chat as well? How do you like the new COTA layout, and as well as overall thoughts from the race?
Well, I did like that short shoot. I think turn 7, just like flying out of there and almost hitting the grass. I
Mhm.
thought that was really nice.
Mhm.
I do miss the long straight, but at the same time, 2 minute and like 30-second lap times
I
are
think it took
non-negotiable.
a minute and a half. I heard off of lap times, and especially it
Yeah.
takes
Yeah,
a lot of
about that.
times off of caution laps.
Yeah. So I'm very happy that's happening, and yeah, I did like the race better than probably last year because overall it was a little more boring when it
Well,
was that
yeah.
long of
Mhm.
laps.
Mhm. Field was always more spread out and everything on that layout.
And interestingly enough, we had
Yeah.
a green flag finish last year, obviously off of a much longer green flag run, but certainly had a green flag finish to this race this year, and we're going to be very happy and excited to hear thoughts from the Kyle Busch fan on how that finish went down. How about you just kind of take us inside your mind, thinking about it 24 hours later?
Why did Denny Hamlin have to lose? I'm kidding.
Denny Hamlin, he's very based. I
That's
thought that was
that's
funny taking
well,
out Austin Hill.
okay, no. Um, no, I think Kyle had the best strategy if it went green, but once the caution came out, I mean, I knew Bell had speed. I saw it throughout the green run. I was like, just praying that went green, and of course my prayers were not answered. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it was really interesting seeing those two battle, and I thought, like, I was thinking back to last year, is there going to be bad blood if they're battling like this? Surprisingly, there wasn't. They were very clean. They were very respectful with each other. I mean, Bell was racing the guy who gave him the opportunity to race in NASCAR. So, I gotta be a little, I think, a little more lenient with them as well. But you still race him. I think Bell showed it right. Byron showed it right. And even Reddick came into the picture at the last second. And I just thought about this. It's pretty interesting that it was Kyle Busch versus two of his former trainees that he
Mhm.
had.
Hmm.
What I That was always something.
And contrary to Bush's strategy, I also want to talk about Shane Van Gisbergen. He
Yep.
Oh yeah.
overcut everyone by I think like 5 or 6 laps. So if it went green, he probably would have closed that gap a little more than if that caution did come out, just like similar to Bush.
One thing I noticed looking back at the race results, and we're gonna be have a chance to look at the fantasy standings soon as well. But A.J. Allmendinger was running up front for most of the race, then
Yeah.
finished 30th, and I haven't even had a chance to look into it. I'm curious if anyone in the chat could give some insight on what happened to A.J. Allmendinger, one of the road course ringers. It was fun seeing him dice it up there at front as he normally does. On the topic of Shane
Yeah.
Van Gisbergen, they
Yeah,
were
what the
around
heck?
each other a lot. So
I want
that was
Yeah.
question marks around that.
Did he just have like I think did he just wear out his tires or
Uh,
it looks like Cody
but
might have had
wow,
something.
30th place finish? Like, what did he get
Yeah,
a
I
penalty?
don't. I was wondering that too at the end of the race here because there was a lot of like Chase Elliott was moving up a lot, was very moving up very quickly, and there was just a lot
Mhm.
of things going on in the back of the pack that I just don't think that Fox really covered much. Um, and obviously there was such a battle for the lead, so it's kind of hard to. But
Mm.
yeah, I don't know. I noticed that too because he was running fifth when he started dropping. Same thing happened with Chastain as well. I don't know if anyone saw that,
He
but
dropped 12th, didn't he?
yeah, Chastain was running in the top 10 as well, and
Well,
he fell like a
Chastain was
rock as
driving
well.
scared
Yeah.
there at the end.
So from what I
Mm-hmm.
heard is when Chastain, like when he saw Elliott coming up, he just pulled aside and let Elliott by. He didn't even try because I think he knew he was
Yep,
Uh-huh.
had
that's what I
something
saw.
coming.
Yeah.
But my thing is like, and this could be kind of a discussion for everyone, right? If Chastain didn't kamikaze in the turn one, would the outcome of the race have been different? And my thoughts on that is absolutely, because as you saw, Kyle Busch had the start on the outside. He and Van Gisbergen, those guys all shot around and got up to the front while Elliott got spun. I think if Elliott was
Yeah.
up there, he was a contender for the win that
I mean,
day.
he
No
he
doubt.
rallied up to fourth, didn't he?
He
To
dri-
help
I
yeah,
everyone.
mean,
and
He
in
passed Kyle
qual
Busch at the
in
end,
Yeah.
didn't he?
qualifying, he went third on a second lap, not a first lap, a second lap on worn tires, which is unheard of. So I think he had a good car.
Funny
Go ahead,
thing
Zach.
is, it's like I think every Hendrick car had just an onslaught of happenstances and of craziness, except Byron at
Yeah.
COTA. Bowman got penalized like twice, got a threat 2 more times, I think, and he was not happy after one of those penalties. He battled back though for an 8th place finish. COTA is one of his better tracks, so
Yeah.
and then Larson lost a tire, and I
Yeah.
imagine we'll see some suspensions coming for that.
Yeah.
Uncharacteristic mistake for the 5 team. We got a very active chat right now. A lot of people chime in on this COTA discussion. I already saw that Ross Chastain was name dropped, and back on that topic, like, what was his plan? Did he intend, Derek, on driving into turn 1 hard, or did he get to a point where he's like, "Oh, I'm way too deep on this thing," but he didn't lock up the brakes, I don't think, but obviously there was a point there where it's just he couldn't do much anyway.
Well, yeah, Chastain's driving type is he doesn't realize it's too late until he actually makes contact. Basically, that's really his driving style, and that's really why he gets in a lot of these situations. I mean, we always have to come back every 3 or 4 races to talk about Chastain incident because he's so reckless. But I mean, I could understand it. Like turn 1 on the first lap, like you can get valuable position, but I gotta disagree with Chastain here. It just wasn't the right move to dive bomb it. And considering Chase Elliott's trying to turn to get a good run off the corner, it's just a no-no. And I think everyone agrees with that.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like Chase Elliott took a hard lick from the Chastain car. Obviously, I mean, I don't think that race car was perfect, but the team managed it, and Chase Elliott drove his way back up, and that was, I don't know if that's something that will brew over and spill over into upcoming races, the Chase Elliott versus Ross Chastain deal. But we saw that Ross Chastain made sure nothing happened of it, even declined comment after the race after he pulled over for Chase Elliott there in the end. That's just one of the, it's kind of a short track situation. You expect to have a storyline like that after a short track race, but we're having it after a road course race. And that was definitely a big talking point from COTA. But how about we focus on that finish and give it the time it deserves? Because we had a situation where you had Kyle Busch trying to win his first Cup race in over nearly 2
59
years.
races.
Yeah, 59 years. And
Years.
59
Years. Yeah.
Holy shit,
And
bro.
it probably feels that way for Kyle Busch, considering how
It
much he
does. Yeah.
wins.
Feels
the
that way for me. Been 84
59-year
years.
winless streak. It'd be the longest between 2 wins.
So how many years is that for in Jimmy Johnson terms, how many years is that now?
Well, Kyle Busch is the active driver. He's the one on the 59-year winless streak. So as
Jimmy
of
Johnson's on the 120 something year streak then.
Actually, Richard Petty's coming up on his 59-year winless streak.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Oh, he's he's
At this point, do
41
we
years.
consider Richard Petty washed?
I think
You-
I'm
mhm.
not sure. I think he still has it.
Oh my god.
How about we deviate slightly off topic here? And for those hanging out with us in the chat, we've had a very active one with King and Mark talking slightly off topic thought here. Send in your NASCAR Mount Rushmore. And how about we do that here on the panel? We've got plenty of time to do so. I'll start with you, Cody. Cody?
Mount Rushmore?
Mm-hmm. NASCAR.
Well, I mean, man, that's a hard one. Obviously, I gotta have Richard Petty and Earnhardt up there. Um, I'd probably throw. I'd probably throw Gordon in there. Gordon really for a lot of reasons because he's starting all-time wins. He's the Iron Man of NASCAR, but he also kind of propelled the sport into a very more of a open the eyes to a lot more people, in my opinion. And the final one that I'd have to choose, and it's honestly this one's a no-brainer for me, Cody Ware.
Get out of here,
No,
dude.
I'd have to say, I'd probably say Jimmy Johnson. I mean, seven-time champion. It's hard to go against those stats. The 5 straight years. He kind of exposed the playoffs a little bit, and I think that's going to be the top 5 for the Mount Rushmore for a lot of people. Honorable mention, no doubt, David Pearson. I'd put him as an honorable mention. But yeah, that'd be my Mount Rushmore.
All right, I'll go next, and this is going to be a common answer. I've already seen it in the chat. Mark said Petty, Johnson, Gordon, Dale Sr. For me, that's the same, but I'm going to give a hierarchy here as well as my honorable mentions. For me, it's Jimmy Johnson number 1, Dale Earnhardt Sr. number 2, Jeff Gordon number 3, Richard Petty number 4. I rank Richard Petty below all of those top 3 drivers, and that's just always been my opinion on the outlook. And then uh, drivers that are knocking on the door of Mount Rushmore, one that's active is Kyle Busch. Tony Stewart's there as well. Cale Yarborough, David Pearson, some good notables that come to mind from back in the day. And I mean, Mark Martin, I'm not saying he's close to Mount Rushmore, but he's just a driver that I felt like has always just been so skilled and so good, and perhaps forever the best driver without a championship, right there with Denny Hamlin and drivers like Carl Edwards as well. And for me, I just like mentioning Mark Martin as an outlier to this Mount Rushmore conversation. I feel like Mark Martin was so cool. I wish I was older to watch him race in his prime. But I'm probably forgetting some name here. But nonetheless, I know I said my Mount Rushmore as I have it. How about you, Marcus?
Okay, so I'm gonna say Dale Earnhardt. That's easy. Petty. I mean, he basically owned everyone back in the like 70s, 60s, 70s, early 80s. I think Jeff Gordon goes on there, and then it's between Johnson and Bush for me. I'm gonna probably have to say Jimmy Johnson just because that 5-year run he had, late in the late 2000s was just absolutely insane. They changed the format on him so many times, and he still, somehow found a way to manipulate it for himself to make it work. But I would, honorable mentions, obviously Kyle Busch. I'd put David Pearson there too, Kelly Yarbrough, like you were saying, Zach. Pretty much everyone you were saying. Also another Roush driver, but I'm not gonna say it's gonna be. I'm not gonna say Mark Martin. I'm gonna say Carl Edwards because you look at it. If there was never a chase, Carl Edwards would be a 3-time Cup Series, at least a 2-time. No wait, at least a 2-time Cup Series champion, I believe. You just think about that 2011 season, how ridiculous that run was, just to lose out in a tiebreaker to a guy that didn't win until the last 10 races. So I would say he would be up there for sure.
I was thinking we might get a wide range of Mount Rushmores, but the general consensus has been the same. King said his Mount Rushmore is also Petty, Johnson, Dale Sr. He is torn between the 4th spot between Gordon and Cale Yarborough. We have not heard from one more person on the panel though. And Derek, I'm curious what yours is.
Yeah, my approach to this is I don't think the retro drivers and the current drivers should be classified in the same stone because you got Washington on one end and Teddy Roosevelt like 120 years later. But I think I should give at least 8 drivers here. For the retro part,
Massive Mount Rushmore.
yeah, no, but like two
Double-decker.
separate Rushmores. That's what I'm trying to say here. So in the retro side, I'm gonna go first, of course, Richard Petty. Although the competition wasn't as fierce in the early years, he still got 200 wins. That's something that won't ever happen again. Next, I would probably put Darrell Waltrip. I think he did a lot for the sport in terms of rule changing, just trying to find out ways to get it. And then I'd also put Dale Earnhardt and Bobby Allison in that retro Mount Rushmore. And then perhaps more current, of course, Jimmy Johnson is the GOAT of the modern era. And then you also got drivers like Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, and also Tony Stewart, of course. I forgot to mention him.
A couple of minutes ago, I reacted pretty appropriately to a chat sent by Mark, and this was quite the idea by him on this topic that we have certainly have enjoyed talking about here. That Mark and King have as well. This is Mark's idea, though. Mount Rushmore for drivers to never win a championship. He started this off by saying Mark Martin, Hamlin,
Yeah.
Keane, and Newman. That's a fun Mount Rushmore to do. We might as well knock that off too. We've got time to. How about you,
Those
Mark?
first two are crazy to not have a championship.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark Martin and Hamlin, I agree with. I have to put Edwards has to go on there. There's no question about it. I mean, the guy was, he was ridiculously underrated, I think, in NASCAR. And then Ryan Newman, how many poles did Newman get? I know he got a bunch.
Bunch in the early part of his career.
Yeah, and I don't think I could put Newman on there though, because I mean, I just don't think I can. It's either I gotta say maybe Casey Kane or actually Junior Johnson. Yeah, everyone forgets Junior Johnson never won a championship.
Yeah.
Put him on there.
See, on a circumstance like this, it's going to be hard for me to reference the old drivers because if they didn't have a championship to their name, I wouldn't necessarily know it off the top of my head. But uh, yeah,
Junior
Mount
Johnson.
Rushmore of non-championship drivers has to include Mark Martin and Carl Edwards for me. Denny Hamlin certainly has to be there. And I mean, that's three. That four spot's kind of up for competition here, and it's tough to look at where to start. I mean, you look at current drivers, there isn't really like a outstandingly notable current active driver without a championship besides Denny Hamlin. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. only gets in that conversation more so just for the popularity and the name aspect. But he was close to winning some championships.
Don't forget Ricky Rudd.
Yeah.
He's pretty good.
Rudd, I think got what year did he get? He got P2 sometime. 95, 96, I think.
This is tough. The Lebrani brothers both have championships. They would have been honorable mentions I forgot to mention for the Mount Rushmore overall. And I can't think of a fourth for this. I just can't. It's too tough. Casey Kane's a good one, but I feel like there's drivers I'd put above Casey Kane on that conversation.
Like I feel like Kane, like I think it just fell off way too quickly. Don't get me wrong, he was a damn good driver, but for how long his career was, I think it was like after 9 years he fell off, which is very short time to be good.
Well, Cody, did you have any thoughts on the Mount Rushmore of non-championship winning drivers?
Yeah, obviously, I think the no-brainer picks are Hamlin and
Martin.
Martin. No doubt, just dominating drivers. From then on, it's kind of it's interesting to see, where you would put all these other drivers at. Um, because there's a lot of drivers out there that have never won a championship. Um, Although his career was somewhat short, only 11 seasons, I will probably put um, Edwards on there, and then I guess I would put Junior Johnson as my other one. I think he has
50 wins.
50 wins. So you don't win you win 50 races and somehow you don't win a championship. Now as a owner, he won 5 championships, but it just wasn't the same as winning it as a driver yourself here. He won the 3 with the Yarborough and 3 with Waltrip. But um yeah, there's a lot of drivers out there that you would think that should have won a championship and they just never got it done. I actually one driver I think a lot of you guys here have left off your list. Sterling Marlin. If you remember back in the 90s and 2002, if it wasn't for the injury at Kansas, he probably would have won that championship over
Stewart.
And
Stewart. Yeah, sorry.
you've got to think like that butterfly effect. If he had done that, like how would it affect today? Would Ganassi, would we still see them around? Would it have just been like a one-win wonder for them?
Yeah, I don't know.
I love
It's those
thinking
big
about
scenarios.
butterfly effects.
It's those scenarios that what I just thought about, that who we left off our honorable mentions for NASCAR is Kevin Harvick. We completely forgot about him.
He has a championship.
Yeah, we forgot about him we forgot
Mount
about him from the
Rushmore.
other one for the champion Mount
Oh, yeah,
Rushmore.
yeah.
Yeah. You could say Harvick was held back by RCR's decline.
Well, he would also be a 4-time champion if we had a real points format too.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
SHR's decline also hurt him towards the end.
Yeah.
I got one more Mount Rushmore if you guys are interested.
Sure.
Back marker Mount Rushmore.
No.
Mhm. Well, I
Um,
saw RN chime in the chat, and this is direct quote. He said, "Kyle Petty and BJ McLeod are drivers that raced in NASCAR." That's
that's
it.
correct. Yeah.
I would say, I mean, so we got to put Petty on there. We got to put McLeod on there.
Kyle Petty actually, I do believe he had a championship run. 92, I know for a
1992.
fact. He was pretty close there. But anyway, a team Mount Rushmore. 4 teams that you guys
Mhm.
think should have been on there. Obviously, for myself, it's got to be Petty Enterprises, Hendrick.
Mhm.
Um, oh man, after those two, it kind of gets a little hard. I want to say Penske, but you think about it, Penske's only won all their championships in the last 12 years, last 13
Mm-hmm.
years. Um, so I guess, yeah, I guess I'll say Penske, and then the other one I'll do is Richard Childress.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And then obviously Gibbs is right there, but I just feel like Penske's left more of an impact than Gibbs has.
All right,
But that
chat.
could be for debate.
We're right now before we go to break. We're doing Mount Rushmore, our final Mount Rushmore of teams in NASCAR, and I'll go next. Let's try to get this done in about 7 minutes, and then we'll go to break, and then we'll wrap up the show. Real quick note: our format is going to kind of be like this going forward, where we are not afraid to deviate off topic. We are having more genuine discussions as well as the chat getting involved as well. And the shows will also subsequently be less than an hour and a half. So we're shortening the shows. It's good for the attention spans. And all right, let me give my answer for Mount Rushmore of teams. Yes, Hendrick Petty Enterprises. It's important to know Petty Enterprises, even though it's not around anymore or not notable. You can't forget the notable disbanded teams. So those are definitely the top two. I guess Hendrick has to be first, though, if I'm ranking them. They passed them up. They are the most winningest team in NASCAR. And then after that, I got to put Roush on there, whatever form of it you want to call, because Roush is a very historic team in NASCAR. They very important for the Ford brand in NASCAR with the Yates engine development and stuff like that. And just other than that, very successful team. And then that leaves that coveted fourth spot. That's a tough spot, and Cody went into it and certainly gave a good thought process on Team Penske and the fact that they're very good, very historic global racing team, but they actually haven't been historic in NASCAR for that long. Of course, they've been very good as of late in the past couple decades, but their history is not as large as some of the others on this list. So, Team Penske is there, but I'm not locking it in. I'm just trying to think of who I'm missing here because RCR is a good one. And I feel like I might put RCR ahead of Penske for that reason. And I'll lock it in right there. I'll flip it to you, Marcus.
All right. So obviously we got to start with Rick Ware. Premium Motorsports is what I'm kidding. Not going there. Obviously I gotta say Petty Enterprises, Hendrick Motorsports. Um, After that it gets hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I spoke about him earlier. I'm gonna have to put his team on there. I have to put Junior Johnson's team on there. I mean, you look back to the old days. One of the first cars you'll see, besides the blue 43, is either the Mountain Dew number 11 or the Budweiser number 11. Those are some of the first two cars you might see. I gotta put him on there. Multiple championships, multiple legendary drivers. And then after that, the fourth spot gets really hard because you've got Penske, Gibbs, RCR, and Roush to work with. And I'm gonna give that spot to Gibbs because my thing is RCR. They were you know insane in the late 80s and early 90s. and then they just kind of like they were kind of like steady, and then they started declining, like starting from the time Earnhardt passed. So Roush, they're very relevant for, the 2010s. I think is when they were the most relevant. Like I would say 97 to 2000, 2012 is what I'm gonna say is like when their relevancy started to die out.
All
And
right.
who was the? Yeah, I'll let y'all move on to Dar.
Yeah. Before we go to break here, Dar, Mount Rushmore of teams.
Just gonna go quick. Hendrick 1. Probably Petty 2. Maybe switch those. No, actually Hendrick 1. JGR 3, and then I'm torn between Penske and Roush, but feel like Roush should get that final spot. Penske just right there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Very quick, we're going to go to break and we're going to wrap up the show. On the other side of this break, we're going to wrap it up with fantasy standings update. We're going to rate the race and we're going to open up that chat room one more time. We're going to try and catch up on everything we've missed because that chat has been very active today and we've been missing a lot. So, show wrap up on the other side of the break. You're not going to want to miss the fantasy standings update. And we're going to step aside. We're back from break, and we're going to wrap up the show in probably the next 20 minutes. One thing I forgot to mention, and that's what we're going to start this other side of the break with, is some F1 off-season updates from none other than our most notable F1 fan on the panel, Derek Smith. He's been keeping up with F1 testing. He thinks he has some insight on who's going to be slow and fast.
Yeah, I mean, over 3 days of testing. It started on my birthday on the 26th to February 28th, Wednesday through Friday. It was, obviously it's very boring to the normal person, but there's always a lot of insight you can get from these testing sessions to see who's fast and perhaps even like what driver's fast as well. So when it comes down to the performance of the cars, we need to start at first with McLaren. They look like the fastest car out there. They seem to be the pace setter over the main guys like Ferrari, Mercedes, and Red Bull. Um, they have a lot of cool innovations going on, and one big thing that helped them out last year was a thing called the mini DRS, which when they're at a high rate of speed, the rear wing flexes so that it gives you more straightaway speed without actually opening the DRS like usual on the straights. So that was the innovation there, and a lot of teams are trying to test it out too. I believe Mercedes and Ferrari also tried it out, but we're gonna see how the FIA handles that because they're always strict with how the way the cars are made. The next behind McLaren, I mean, we got Mercedes and Ferrari. I think they're right next to each other in terms of performance. Uh, Notably, the Mercedes do have problems with locking up going into corners, so brake balance is definitely lower there. And on the Ferrari side, I think the front end of the car seems very heavy, so that more understeer is induced when they're racing. And yeah, they barely trailed McLaren in that category. And then I think Red Bull is struggling to keep up here. They basically have the same car from last season, and they had the least amount of testing laps too. So I feel like
Yeah,
Max Verstappen's carrying this team.
it makes me wonder now. Like, is Red Bull just gonna shaft this year? They've won their championships. Are they gonna shaft this year and focus on the new regulations that we have coming in 2026? Like, I
Or
think
could
that's
or
what
could
we're.
this be like a dark moment for the
I
team, like
mean,
it was
hey,
in
you know what?
2014?
Verstappen, he might be in his Sebastian Vettel era for all we know.
It could be. Yeah, very much could be.
Well,
Um,
Dar, what's the preseason testing telling you? Does it give you enough insight for a constructors championship pick and even maybe a driver?
I think Max is still might have a good enough car to get the driver championship because Uh, Max, in a way, was such a great driver last season that he made his team worse by letting that team ignore all the problems they actually had with the car, and that's why Perez sucked so badly. So, I mean, Max just overdrives past expectations. So, I think he's still in the contender, but I think this might be the year for Norris or Piastri. I think one of the McLaren boys will do it.
I'd be riding on that Norris camp. McLaren has been resurging ever so slightly each year, and we'll have to see how it all plays out. Thanks for the insight. Our F1 is really the last main series that we have to open up the season for, and that's coming up sooner than later. So,
And just real quick, I just want to say that Williams has from a backmarker car, they're now pretty much midfield. Might even go for fourth place in the constructors.
I think
wow.
Signs will absolutely be carrying that
Yeah,
team
it's a good
because
team, good driver too.
yeah,
Well, I'll believe it when I see it, but I think there's definitely reason to be optimistic about the Williams camp then. We'll have to see. I think their car, I've always liked their cars. We'll have to see how the
Yeah.
liveries look this year, and it'll especially look good if they're running more competitively. With that, we'll shift gears here and wrapping up the show. We've got a couple more things to get to. And, well, should we start with the fantasy standings updates or rate the race, guys? What do you think?
I could get the fantasy real quick here.
All right. We're going to take a look. For those of you in the chat that have joined along in our fantasy league, which pays out a prize to the champion at the year's end, and for those of you that have not joined, when Cody pulls it up, you get a good look at what the league is called. The password is what? NASCAR?
Yeah, should be. Yeah.
I think it's lowercase NASCAR too, if I'm
I
not
wonder
mistaken.
I wonder who won this week.
Or it might be the password might be capital N, lowercase rest of the letters.
I
Just
think. Yeah. I
if you
think
want to
that's it.
join though, the league is called the Tune Up with the motto "Checkers or Wreckers." You'll see it if you look it up, and you just got to figure out to that password. We're pretty sure
I'll
it's NASCAR.
Yeah, I'll just run down the league right now. We have a total of 10 people, but or 10 people that have entered in. Right now, King is your leader here. He has got a healthy lead, 532. Next up is Tony. He is at 479. Then it's Derek. You're at 468. Marcus, you're at 462.
Hmm.
Um, Marcus Law, he's at 429. And then we have Nate, number 610. He's at 420. Zach, you sit at
Crazy.
387. Myself, I'm sitting at 386. And ninth, we have Shiny. He's at 312. And in the back here, it's DePayton, 172. I do believe DePayton and Shiny got a later start than others. I do want to point out here we picks will be allowed for next week. My picks from this past weekend, I had Gisbergen, Gibbs, Allmendinger, Suarez, Reddick, and in my garage was Gregson. I don't know why I didn't switch Gregson out for Gibbs. I should have probably done that. Gregson would have got me a lot more points than Gibbs. Gibbs got me 3 points, but nevertheless, yeah, it was kind of Suarez, Allmendinger, Gibbs that really dragged me down. Reddick and Van Gisbergen both got me 45 and 39 points respectively. So
Yeah.
that kind of held me back. But I'm on the comeback trail right now. I know right now King's got a healthy lead, but I think by year's end, I think I get up to him.
I know.
Believe when I see it.
I know. I know. I won fantasy for the week, but my regret is I could have moved Bowman out. So my lineup was Bush, Bell, Byron, Van Gisbergen, Bowman, and then I was gonna have Zilich in the garage, and I was like, last second, like, no, I'm not gonna trust him for his debut. I took him out, put Reddick in the garage, and Bowman was running better than Reddick at the end of stage 2. So I was like, yeah, I'll just keep Bowman in. I wish I took him out and put Reddick in. Yeah, I mean, he got a couple more spots, sure, but Reddick would have gotten me some extra points because any point could help, considering how bad the super speedway stretch for me personally went.
All right. Well, I'm not gonna spend too much time harping on this. So, main idea is to get that fantasy standings rundown, and we know that one person in the chat is particularly happy with how it looks right now. That's King, who's sitting up there towards the top. And I'll have to see how that continues to change. Remember, you can make your picks not today, but it opens up tomorrow for the upcoming race week. Me, I have a reminder on my phone now, so I don't forget to make race picks, and I'd recommend doing something like that as well. Simply missing a week could really hurt your championship chances, so you want to make sure you make picks every week. And with that, we've got really one more main thing to do before we get to the outro and the chat room discussion. That is rate the race, and due to our lack of last week's episode, we're gonna do double rate the race, and we're gonna start in order of how it went down. And with that, that means we're gonna start by rating the race that happened at Atlanta. And I'll go back to the first time Atlanta goer. You get to rate the racing, the finish, and the overall event. Is that right, Derek?
Yeah, racing product, excitement, finish, and then the overalls calculated.
All right, Cody, take it away.
So we start off Atlanta, right?
Correct.
Racing product, I gotta say it's a 9.7. Once again, it just put on a hell of a show. No question about it. Excitement, I gotta give that one a high one. I'll give that one an 8.8. Really edge of my seat the entire race, and I mean I say that a lot, but it really was edge of my seat. I mean, just every lap you're just watching, you don't know what to expect. It's really cool. Um, it's a surreal experience, honestly. I love going to Talladega and that, but man, oh man, that was something else. And for finish, that's where it kind of deviates from it, but still was a good finish in my opinion. I give it a 6.7. Really enjoyed the racing there at the end. I figured it wasn't gonna last. I don't know how they didn't wreck in turn one, all the beating and banging, but they made it all the way to the backstretch, and then from then on, it just kind of fell apart. And NASCAR, they had to do what they had to do, and so. Nevertheless, though, those are that's my rating for that. Do I also give my rating for COTA, or are we waiting?
We'll wait on that.
Wait.
Okay.
I'm gonna be honest. I did not listen to most of those decimals, so you're gonna have to repeat those decimals again.
9.7, 8.8, and what was
It's
the last one?
6.7.
All right. That's an 8.4 total overall
That
rating.
sounds about right.
All right,
Yep.
Marcus, you're up next. Atlanta race rating.
Racing product, I'll give a 9. Excitement, I'll say 8.2. And then finish, I'll give a solid 5.6.
All right, quick and concise. Derek, do you have the average?
Oh my gosh! I keep spacing out. You gotta forgive me.
5.6, 8.2, and 9.
All right. So that's 7.6 for Marcus.
All right.
Zach, you go ahead on this one. I got it this time.
Are you sure?
I'm sure. I got it.
I know we make you the mathematician for this, but you're locked in now. All right,
Yes.
so I'll start with the overall event as a attendee. I'll take off points just for the weather not being the best. It was cloudy. It was not warm. I like Atlanta being a little bit later in the year for the first date. I liked it when it was in March. At least gives it a chance to be a bit warmer, although it never really was in March. We got the bad luck with the weather too. So for that reason, I'll give the event a 7.9 overall event rating, and then I'll grade the racing product. Been quite the Atlanta enthusiast. The only thing I take away from it really is kind of the midpoints of the race when teams are playing fuel and when Penske and the Fords have a stranglehold up front, it makes it a bit harder to go chase them down and pass them. So I'll give the racing product an 8.7. And the finish certainly left bad taste in everyone's mouth. What was going to be another three-wide finish likely had the caution thrown. Not saying that it was a bad yellow. We had hard hits down the back stretch, but it's a caution finish nonetheless, so I have to give it a 6 even.
So that first rating you did, you say event thing?
The overall rating
Uh,
or the
you also need to do excitement or.
All right, wait, hold on. Go through it again.
So you got an 8.7 racing product, a
Mhm.
6 finish. You need to do an excitement rating, and then I'll calculate your average.
All right. I sit in a very rowdy section at Atlanta. We were standing for the entirety of the stage for some reason. The excitement was up for that reason. I got mixed up on what I was rating, so excitement is right there at a 9.5 for me.
9.5. All right. So that will come out to wait. Gotta do that. Okay, 8.06 for Zach. We're all pretty high here, aren't we? With these ratings. Okay, well that just leaves me with the ratings here. I gave the racing product a 7.4, but out of 10. I thought it was good. It definitely was. I mean, I wasn't in person like Zach or Cody to maybe bias my ratings be a little higher. But it's all made up in the excitement though. I put that at 9.6. I thought it was a really exciting race to watch. Like Cody said, on the edge of your seat. And then the finish, yeah, like they all said, caution finished race. Whenever I thought maybe it could have stayed green because it would have been 3 wide finish. So that really depleted my my hopes for that finish. So I put it at 4.8, and that rounds out to a 7.26.
All right. Thank you for that, Derek. That's our rating for Atlanta. Before we move on to COTA, we've got some Atlanta ratings in the chat. RN said 10s across the board for me. King for Atlanta said 9.5 racing. The finish was a 6.5. Overall, 8 out of 10. That was what King said. Let's quickly do COTA here, and we'll stay in the same order. We'll start with Cody.
So COTA, I didn't bring this up earlier. COTA's I've been very iffy on what my thoughts are on it. But this race kind of changed my mind. So the racing I thought was pretty good. So I'm gonna give that a 7.6. The finish okay, I guess I'll go to the excitement. The excitement, I didn't really feel it that much there, so that one's gonna be a 5.5. And to top it off, the finish, however, that's where the big points are gonna come in. Really enjoyed that finish. That run to the end was really good. I'm gonna give that um I'm gonna give that a 9.1. I really enjoyed that finish.
All right, Marcus.
Let's see, for the racing product. I mean, I tested out how it would drive on iRacing, like a similar layout to it, and it was pretty fun. So I knew the Cup race would be fun to watch. It turned out to be fun to watch. I'm gonna say a 7.8 racing product. Excitement was a little higher for me because I'm a little biased here. Kyle Busch finally got to go lead laps, so I was excited watching my driver do good. I'm gonna give it an 8 for that reason. And the finish, 9.5. Just good racing, lots of respect from other drivers at the end there, which I mean, it could not have been a better group of four than what we got. So overall, I mean, it was just really fun to watch at the end there.
All right, that leaves it to me. I'll make sure I'm on the same page one more time, Derek. We got a rating for excitement, finish, and racing.
Yes.
All right, I'll start with the racing. COTA, pretty above average road course racing product for me. I thought it was pretty solid, not outstanding. Great that deserves like an outstanding rating, and so I'm gonna give it an even 8.5. And then for the finish, I mean, for a road course especially, when you get 4 cars raced for the win on the last lap like that, the only thing it really missed was William Byron doing something more in that final corner. So instead of this being closer to a 10, I'll give it a 9.4.
Okay.
And the overall, or what am I missing here? I did too.
So racing product, excitement, finish. Those are the 3.
So excitement. Road course race, you're not going to get too up for, but COTA does a good job providing the aura, I think. Very beautiful facility. And it took me, I'm not going to say the excitement was through the roof. I think it was a solid 8.0.
Okay. So that comes to me now. I was like, my opinion was kind of getting a little bit transformed the way you guys talked about it, especially in the finish category. I felt like I had a lot lower rating than you guys on the finish, but you guys brought some good points, and I think I should bring it up. So I'll start out with the racing product. I do love road course racing, and it was good enough here at COTA to be an 8.5. Definitely not the best road course in the series, but it's pretty good. The excitement, like most of you guys agree. I mean, uh, it just wasn't that exciting. There wasn't a lot of like spectacular moves or like crazy wrecks. Maybe like the Suarez incident with Zilich. And then for the finish, I had it pretty low. And then as you guys talked about more, uh, I mean, yeah, there was a good battle with 5 to go with Bush losing his tires, but I just feel like there wasn't really any more moving besides that after that. Whenever I think of the finish, I think of less than 5 to go in like the entirety of it. So, and 5 to go at COTA is a lot longer than usual. So, uh, just because of that, I just put it at a 5.7 because nothing actually happened besides the occasional look there from Byron at the end on Bell, but Bell just went away with it. He kind of cut the S's too. That kind of made me mad, but I thought that was a little just dumb on NASCAR's part to not punish him for that.
Well, we've made it to the end of the show, and but before we wrap up, I actually want to give Marcus the chance as a Phoenix attendee to give his uh, previewing thoughts on the race, and then we're all going to quickly give our race picks before ending the broadcast. But Marcus, take it away first.
Yeah, so the main thing to keep in mind going into Phoenix this week is that NASCAR is bringing the optional tire that they had at Richmond. They're going to bring that as a test for Phoenix this week. And they said that if it goes well for this week, then the option tire will be the actual tire come championship time. So that's something to watch out for. I think there will be a lot of interesting strategies there, like what we saw at Richmond. Um, that's the main thing to look out for. That as well as, it's gonna be a little hot that day. So if people do the optional tire, it'll be interesting to see how long will it work because hot Phoenix soft tire, that's not gonna mix well. They're just gonna melt.
All right, Marcus, how about you? Let's all just give our quick race picks. Remember, 2 winner picks and an underdog. Marcus.
Based on momentum, starting from Phoenix last season and the fact that he's the defending spring winner, I'm going to say Christopher Bell goes 3 in a row to start the year.
Mm.
Ooh, wow, that is.
Your other winner pick, Marcus, and an underdog.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna throw in a Penske driver. I'm gonna throw a Blaney in there because even in the spring, so Logano only shows up in the fall, right? On the even years. Blaney, I think he usually shows up all year round at Phoenix, so I'm gonna put Blaney there. My underdog pick is gonna be. Can we consider Carson Hocevar an underdog still or no?
Yeah.
We can. Okay, I'm gonna say based on how he's been doing the last few weeks and whatnot, I'm gonna say Hocevar gets a top 10 at Phoenix this week.
Really, my rules on it is your underdog has to be not like
Non-established.
not officially worse than your 2 winner picks, but objectively not as good as your 2 winner picks. Just like overall.
So theoretically, I could say if I said Logano as an underdog, I mean he's not as good as Bell and Blaney.
Well, I mean,
theory.
we might make some written rules on it, but for now, I'll give my short and quick picks for Phoenix. Blaney has stood out to me, and he's one that I'm really big on for Phoenix. He is my winner pick, along with Chase Briscoe. Won his first career race at Phoenix, right?
I was there.
And he's in
I
a
was there. Yeah.
JGR car, which I think does well at Phoenix. That 19's won there before with Truex. My underdog is Ty Gibbs. Derek, I'll flip it to you.
All right. Well, first of all, I think the easiest pick, in my opinion, is Joey Logano. I think the Pennzoil connection at Phoenix always helps him out, and I feel like he's always fast there, and that's basically why he's won the championship the past couple times. I mean, although Marcus said that he shows up more in the fall, he's also shown up in the spring too, so it's not just the fall. But yeah, that's a big pick there. I'm finally gonna make my favorite driver pick here. I'm gonna go Chastain with my second pick. I think he's been showing up at Phoenix a lot recently in the past couple years, and I thought he was pretty close to getting that championship there after that Hail Melon, but yeah, I think Logano took him there. And then my underdog pick, I'm between 2 drivers. I think I'm going to go with. Dang, I just had him too. Hold on, guys. I just had him. Okay, I'll just go with my other driver. I'm gonna go with no, never mind. I'm gonna go with Cole Custer. That's my underdog pick for
What?
Phoenix.
Okay.
What?
I know it's out of this world, but he comes out of nowhere like Kentucky sometimes.
All right, Cody, the last here.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about this. Penske, their dominance there is really good. But I think I'm gonna go to a guy who's won there before as my first pick. A guy's first career win there in 2022. He's pretty hot in his new ride. It's gonna be Chase Briscoe. I think he's got a good chance at it. However, obviously, like I said Penske's gonna be strong. Give me Ryan Blaney. I just cannot pick him. He's just so strong. Um, and my underdog, and this is a hard one because honestly, uh, this compound tire can really mix things up. And who knows, what we have in store for this compound. I hope it's good. And I think it made a lackluster Richmond fun to watch, in my opinion. But my underdog for for Phoenix is going to be man. I just I'm looking at a few drivers right now. Hold on. Give me a second. Give me Noah Gragson.
Yep.
Okay.
Riding off a high of a top 10. He's won there. I think he's won there a few times in the Xfinity Series. Um, I think he's finally finding his footing in the Cup Series. Give me him as my underdog.
Well, your winner picks are very original. Chase Briscoe and Ryan Blaney sounds familiar, but we'll leave it there. And with that, we're gonna wrap it up right here. We kind of did our chat room discussion in the middle of the show. That's kind of unprecedented. So we're gonna make it wraps at an even 1 hour and a half long show, and we ran a little bit longer than we hoped to, but we also had to talk about double the amount of races after missing a show last week. So remember, join us next week. We're always streaming new episodes of the Tune Up, adding it to our podcast playlist as well, Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern. I made YouTube shorts this past week. You probably saw some of them. They gained a lot of traction, and in the outro of those shorts, I accidentally put 10 p.m. East. No, we stream at 8 p.m. Eastern Mondays for our new episodes. We'll be here at the same time next week. Hopefully, you won't be missing any more shows anytime soon. With that, that's Derek Smith above me. That's Cody Sill diagonal from me, and then Marcus Vanderlee is to the left of me. We hope to see you guys once again for episode, what is it, going to be 6 now?
It's gonna be 6.
Yeah, and we'll be recapping Phoenix as well as any more notable news in motorsports and
Marcus will
beyond.
love that one.
Oh, well, that's gonna be, dude. I'm gonna just talk about how amazing Phoenix is and why it's better than Homestead.
Phoenix propaganda will be enlarged if you want to skip out on the next show, if you don't want to buy into
Okay.
it. Well, anyways, that's wraps for now. Join us next week for episode 6, Monday at 8 p.m.